Hey y'all, I am so happy to be here today with my one of my besties for a long time.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for you guys to hear from Melanie Yates, who works with OneCoast. I'll let her tell you a little bit more about her title and what she does. But Melanie and I have been friends for almost 20 years.
Hard to
Uh,
believe.
I know it's crazy. Raised our kiddos together for a while. And then we moved to the coast, but have stayed in touch. And you guys, I don't know if this will come before or after Rob's. I haven't decided which order they're going to come in, but you'll also either have heard or be hearing from Melanie's husband, Rob Yates, who also works in sales.
Y'all
So,
can tell us who wins.
yeah, that's
Right.
right. So there'll probably be more funny laughter, maybe a little more, I don't know.
Right? Probably
Okay,
sounds full of crazy moments,
yes,
crazy
yes,
funny moments. Yeah.
for sure, for sure. Well,
Yeah.
Melanie, thank you so much for taking time out of your
Glad
day
to
to
be
do
here.
this.
Yeah.
I know it is it's a busy day for you, and I really appreciate you taking time to do this. So
Absolutely. Anytime.
tell us who you are, how you ended up a Mississippi State alum,
Mhm.
and about your time there.
Well, I graduated from Louisville High School in 1996 and went to college. Was going to major in psychology and quickly realized that was not the path for me. Some days now with almost three teenagers. I wish I had, but I ended up majoring. I have the same major that Laura actually has in communication and public relations, and love that program at Mississippi State. It was great training for that field. And I graduated in 2000 and I got an internship in Birmingham with a company called Southern Progress Corporation, which y'all are probably familiar. Some of you girls may be familiar with, like Southern Living magazine. And so I worked for their book division for 2 years after my internship, which was in the advertising department. And then I moved into their book division and just did some like organizational things there. And then I actually got a job working with my major in their communications department and did PR, press releases, and events and that kind of thing for several. They had other magazines besides Southern Living, but I did just a lot of PR for those things. And then realized that I had a good friend actually who had a job doing what I do now in sales, and she hated it. But we were just out of college. It was a lot of, and that's one thing you have to have in sales. It was a lot of planning, a lot of making your own schedule, a lot of initiative, personal initiative to go out and see customers. And growing up, I had always kind of loved that industry. I'd always worked in retail. I worked in retail in high school. I worked in Montana in retail a summer during college. And so I just love being in stores. I'd always thought I would have my own store. And I thought, well, that would be a great way just to kind of, dive into that a little bit more. And so I ended up getting a job with a company called Gans, Ganz, back in Mississippi. And so Rob and I had gotten married. So we moved back to my hometown of Louisville in 2004, and I started working for Gans. And so that was kind of my first job in this industry.
Okay. All right. And just as a note, because it's kind of cool, you moved back into your childhood home.
I did. This is our living room, which is where we never came when I was growing up, but now we're in here just every day. But we sure did. We went back into the house I grew up in. It was for sale, and we bought it, and here we are today.
That's awesome.
20 years later.
Yeah. So, tell me about Gans. What did you do there? What did you love about it?
I was I can't even remember what my title was there, but what I am now is a territory manager. But my territory with Gans was North Mississippi. And I would go out. Gans had stuffed animals. They had pottery, they had candles. It was just kind of a wide range of products. And I would go into stores, I would take catalogs and samples, and I would sell them, the product. They had seasonal product like Christmas, Easter, but I would just go in. And Gans was a very structured company. I had to fill out sheets and back then we had to fax them in, but I had to fill out like a daily log of where I went every day, what I sold, just a lot more paperwork back then than what we do now. But I had just catalogs, and I would put those in a little ordering thing. It was a handheld device. I don't even know what you would call it now, but anyway.
The pre-tablet.
Yeah, it was a lot of try. And I still, I'll say this, just jumping ahead a little bit to what I do now, in the first, I think one of the first rules of sales is you have to be out in front of your customer. And Rob probably said that too in his session. They want that face-to-face interaction. At this point, I've been with the company I'm with now 12 years. And so my customers know me. There's so much technology with Zoom, like Laura and I are doing today. And I will do Zoom some, but customers like that face-to-face interaction. And that's really where I built a lot of the relationships I still have today, was at Gans, just being a road warrior, getting up every single day and going out and seeing somebody. I think that's just part of the special sauce that you have to have, is just, building those relationships through that face-to-face interaction. And, it's a lot easier in person to build those sales. They're gonna buy a lot more if you drive there to see them. And, that's a concern to spend more time with them than it is just to say, well, let me just call you, which is important too. Just any kind of interaction is important, but the face-to-face interaction is most important.
Yeah. Yeah. So what led to you leaving Gans?
Well, I'd had my first child, and I wasn't sure. I had a friend who was actually opening up a clothing store in Starkville. And, I thought, well, if I'm going to do my own store, this will be a kind of a a stepping stone to that. So I managed a clothing store in Starkville for 2 years, and then had my second child, and quickly realized that retail and small children it's really, really hard to do. For those of you out there who do want to have your own store, which may not be any of you, but you are married to it. You are there from before the doors open till 9:00 at night. You're there on weekends. You're there on Christmas Eve. You're there the day after Christmas. It was just a lot, and I just needed to be at home more. And so that quickly led me to work in a dental office for a couple of years. When I realized I needed just a 9-to-5 Monday through Friday job, I worked in a dental office. But I always knew, even when I took that job, that I wanted to get back to, selling gifts. A lot of people use this type job, or did in the past, as a stepping stone to pharmaceuticals, or, any other, sales job. But I just really love the industry. I love the products that I sell. I love just that, being in stores and seeing customers and helping customers, sell things that are pretty and fun. And so I ended up applying for this job with OneCoast, and that was in 2011, and got the job. And now my territory is North Mississippi, West Tennessee. And so I live in Louisville, Mississippi. I go all the way up to Dyersburg, Tennessee, and kind of Vicksburg, Jackson, Meridian is my southern boundary in Mississippi.
Okay. And so you've been with OneCoast for 12 years.
Yeah.
Always as a territory manager? Has that been progression? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell us.
My job, my manager is, after you've been somewhere 12 years, he pretty much lets me do my own thing. And I, you got to put your money where your mouth is. And I hit goals. And so, I kind of just, I never want to be over a lot of people, because I feel like all he gets is issues. So I love just kind of being in and out of stores and helping my customers and making sure we get in there out of the lines I sell, we get in there what works for them best.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you mentioned earlier just being really loving what you're selling.
Mhm.
Talk to that a little bit about how you think that plays into your success.
Well, and let me say first off, in 12 years, what the lines that I sell, they sign a contract, and our group is contracted to sell those lines in like I said, a certain territory, and so lines come and go. And so we have had some years of lines that were not great. We've had some lines of year. I had a great year one year. The lines I sold a lot of left the next year. And I'm straight commission. And that's what a lot of sales jobs are. And so you're like, what am I going to do? Thankfully, my company is just they really stand by their employees, and so they kind of help me through that kind of rocky time. But right now, I have some great lines that are very trending in the marketplace, and it's just fun, when people want what you have. I've had so many years where people just didn't want what I had, and but, I think in any sales job, what you're selling, you may not always love what you're selling, um, but you can find a positive in it, no matter what it is. Some of the lines I sell now are not my strongest suit, but,
Mhm.
I do try to find one or two things in each one that I think are awesome. I'm not going to sell something to somebody just to make a sale either. I want it to be a good fit for their store, and because if they don't sell it, then I'm in trouble. If they don't sell what I sell to them, then they're going to be like, well, this isn't selling. And they
Mhm.
spend a bunch of money on something that they're just sitting on. And so that's important too, to kind of, as we say, read the room and see what is going to sell, and not just try to make a sale.
Yeah.
And a lot of my customers now I've been with all these years, and they are friends. And I think that's another key component in selling, is to build those relationships, because when they love you and you don't have anything that they want, they're still going to buy something from you just because they love you. And
Yeah. That
then,
loyalty.
loyalty, and then
Mhm.
you're going to be loyal to them, when things change in the market. But just, and you want your friends to be successful, and those relationships kind of go hand in hand
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
any sales job. I think, um anything you sell, if you have a good relationship with your, territory, or your sales rep, and then with your business owner, then they're going to come to you first before
Mhm.
they go to somebody else to look for, what they're needing.
Mhm. Talk a little bit about, and this is not something we've really been able to get into with some of our other speakers, but about how, like, the competitiveness, because you're selling a product that is to your customer, that's customer facing. So
Mm.
how do you balance, like, well, this person has it, so you can't sell it to that person down the street? So talk a little bit about what that looks like for you.
So years ago, before there were so many lines, there was something called zip code protection.
Mhm.
And you would, like, if one person in one town had something, then they would be zip code protected, and you would not sell it to anybody else, not contractually, but just, honor system, I guess. And but now, I live in a small town, and I use that as an example a lot of times in my selling, because nobody wants the same things. And I think there's really two sides to it. But the first side is, nobody wants their store to look exactly the same way as the store does down the street. And
Mhm.
so we really do try to keep people different. And that's where I come in. I sell to you, and I say, independent on the town size, independent on the customer. Some of my greatest customers, they're just doing their thing, and they have blinders on, they're
Mhm.
successful, and they don't even look at what anybody else is doing. they could care less because and honestly, those are some of my most successful customers. They just do their own thing and they don't call me complaining that so-and-so has, I sell a line of candles called Bridgewater. Many of you may be familiar with Sweet Grace. It's a
Mm-hmm.
scent, and they have a lot of great products in that one scent. And people get real testy when they can't have it. But most of the time, the customers that sell so much of it, they don't even care.
Yeah.
It's some of the littler, more
Mm-hmm.
startup type stores that do kind of get angry. And I tell people all the time, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to sell that to you because you wouldn't want me to sell that to the other store if you had it first.
Mm-hmm.
And that really puts it in perspective, I think, a lot of times for people. And I sell 12 different lines. Some of the lines have thousands and thousands and thousands of items. And so that's one way where you can make sure that stores stay different is say, I'm not going to sell Susie down the street the
Mm-hmm.
same. They may have, like Jane Marie is another line that I sell that's huge, a huge line. They may have some Jane Marie, but I'm doing my hardest, working my hardest not to sell them the exact same things you have. Again, it's about relationships, and we want all of our relationships to stay positive.
Mm-hmm.
And, most of the time, I'm going to say 95% of the time, you can make it to where everybody's happy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In any livelihood you have, some people just aren't ever going to be happy. But I think the way you treat them and the way you explain things, and the longer I have done this, I just try to be so upfront with people. I'm to say, I can't open you up right now, but if anything changes, I'll let you know. I would do the same thing for you, and if I do open up an account with the same stuff, I say, you can't have certain things, and just so we're clear, and a lot of times when you're in the same town like that, you do have to say, because we have they call it an omni-channel way of ordering. They can order through me, they can order through the vendor, they can order online. And so, but I really like if we have issues like that with multi-stores in the same town, I like them to come through me so I can say, well, so-and-so has that, so let's kind of change it up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. And most of the lines, well, I don't say most, I just know a few, like Jane Marie has, I mean, everything under the sun. So you could,
Everything under the sun. Yeah.
yeah, you can give them some diversity
And I
without
think
stepping on toes.
a lot of times it depends on the age of the buyer. Like sometimes, some older school buyers, they want they still talk about zip code protection. When, as a territory manager, I just say, I'm here to manage the territory, and I'm going to do, you know, I always say, I just don't want people mad at me. So I'm trying to make everybody happy because what's going to happen when I open up Susie down the street, you're going to call me, or, when I'm talking to Susie down the street, when I open you up, so-and-so is going to call me wondering why I let that happen. And so I try to put people in my shoes too, so they can see kind of the thought process behind the why.
Sure. Sure. I'm going to circle back for a minute, talk a little bit about Bridgewater, and
Yeah.
some of the opportunities that you've had to really become a part of, that specific line and that brand.
Yeah. So Bridgewater is a candle company. They're based in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and they actually have 4 candle kind of companies under their umbrella. But Bridgewater was started, I guess, about 20 years ago. And the company that owns Bridgewater is just a very thoughtful company. They are strong Christians, and every line they have now has a give back arm. But Bridgewater has a little give back arm called Light a Candle, Feed a Child. So every candle you buy in Bridgewater gives 3 meals to children to orphans, really, in I think it's almost 30 countries around the world. They provide food budget. And when we think of an orphanage, a lot of these orphanages are just people's homes, that they've opened up for children who lose their parents. And so I had the opportunity to go on a brand experience trip with them to Haiti. Gosh, it's probably been 8 years ago now. where we got to go and visit some of the homes where the children were and see how they benefited from it. I think now they're up to 12 million meals that they've given. And so, but what Bridgewater does, they take the money that is given, when they sell the candles, and they provide food budgets for these. They're not sending rice and beans over from America. They're enabling these people to go to their local markets and purchase food for their kids. And so not only is it helping their kids, it's helping that local economy too, where the food, and it's food that they want to eat, it's food that they've grown up eating. And so it's just a really special thing. I had a customer, one of those little kind of territory things happened where two accounts got kind of opened up in the same proximity. And when I called the one who had it to kind of explain the situation, she was like, well, that just means we're feeding more kids. And I thought, that's so awesome for her to say that. And so, but it is, and they're really, that's a way to change their lives for the better. And I don't think we think about that here in America, but it's a really awesome thing Bridgewater does. And then a Greenleaf, another one of their companies, helps women in human trafficking, just really in their area. They're based, like I said, in Spartanburg, South Carolina, but they help trafficking in that area through their arm called Greenleaf Cares. But anyway, it's a great, anytime you can have a product like that really, and we sell a little sign that customers can put up in their store to say how many meals they've given just in that one store.
That's so cool.
Anytime you can have a give back arm of a product, the end consumer really, really likes that. And made in the USA, a lot of our products made in China, but Bridgewater's made in the USA. I have several lines that are made in the US, and people appreciate that.
Okay. Little technological blip there. But we're back and we're gonna finish the conversation. We're talking about made in the USA and how important that is. Yeah. And also just the storytelling aspect too.
They love a story. They love to hear about the companies and the buyers. Another one of the companies that I sell for, Mary Square, it's started by a woman, a mom, going through postpartum depression. And so she started the company that way. Their apparel and jewelry arm is called Michelle McDowell. That's a mom, started the jewelry line out of her house. And Kelly, the owner of Mary Square, brought her in to do jewelry and apparel. And so, anytime you can, and they'll go, for bigger customers, they've been to their stores before, anytime you can get that special, you want to make your customers, your buyers feel important. And especially like at market, we got a market in Atlanta twice a year, January and July, which is the one time of year that my customers come to me. We have, 60,000 square foot showroom in Atlanta, Georgia at America's Mart, where just about every single product I sell is shown. And so it's just a great way for them to come, and I stay booked. After doing this for so many years, I just make appointments with my buyers and owners, and I stay booked the whole time. So I'm working with my customers because it's the only time I have a full range of product in front of me. Now I take samples on the road, which I think is very important in what we do. But they want to see things at market. They want to see the owners of the company. They want to meet them. They want all the free stuff they can get. And so, that just makes it special.
Yeah. That's really good. Especially in a line like gifts, to be able to
touch and feel.
Interact with those.
And you sell more. I've had customers tell me I'm one of the only reps that bring samples. And, and they'll say, oh gosh, that looks so much better in person than it did in a catalog. And so, and a lot of times I'll take them little happies of extra samples that I have, and they love that. They love feeling, important and special. And a lot of times they'll use those in their social media campaigns too. I'll take them, two of everything and some Bridgewater items, and they'll use that to like tag a friend, and each friend gets, some of the stuff.
These
So
are
we do a
so
lot, anytime some of my better stores really use social media to, get that product out there.
definitely important, especially in small towns.
Yeah.
Now
Mhm.
that COVID has opened up that avenue of for a lot of people. So um,
Absolutely.
talk about we talk a lot in sales about creating value for our customers, and there was one specific example that you gave the last time we did this that I want you to share again, just about the customer with the earrings, because I think
Yeah.
that it is understanding your role and fulfilling it in every way.
So I think the story goes, I had a customer who had some earrings that were just kind of sitting there stagnant, not selling. And so we came in and I said, well, they're not selling because they're way back behind a bunch of other things. And your customers can't get to them. They can't see them, they can't get to them. And so we moved them up by the register. And I think within a week or so, she had sold every pair. Um, and
Which
that's
results in a reorder for you, right? I mean, like
right.
that's it helps both of you. Like she sells
Yeah.
out of a product that hasn't been moving and you get a reorder. So it is that mutually beneficial
Yes.
valuation that we're striving for.
Yeah.
And
I want reorders because that's how I, make my living is selling the products, and I want her to reorder, whether it be new or the same thing she had. But that's one of my favorite parts of my job is kind of helping customers figure out ways to sell more. When we go in, initially to sell something, I really try to do a lot of suggestive selling and give them ideas of how to sell it. Bridgewater has a lot of smaller items, like a little scented sachet. They have vent clips for your car. They have little candle tins. I say, put these in a little gift bag and have them ready gifts to go. At Christmas time, they want to have doorbusters and giveaways, and the first 50 people get a free whatever. Margin builders. We have a lot of products, that look like they're worth a lot more than what they paid for them, and so. I try to suggest, if something costs you $12 for this particular item, put 36 on it if you think you can get it. And then, that's just with overhead of rent, electricity, they have to pay shipping on everything they get. So any extra margin they can get on some products, I always try to help them figure out what those are and buy either more of those or just be prepared for when it comes in, what you're going to do with it. A lot of times people, I love to go in and kind of refresh their displays. Sometimes jewelry gets tangled, displays aren't full. They don't have time to do that. They've cut back on employees just because of, the economy. And so I will, go in and say, can I just kind of shush this up a little bit for you? And 9 times out of 10, they're like, oh, I would love that. And so I'll go in and kind of dust some things off, fill up their jewelry displays to make sure they're full. If they've got any back stock that needs to be put out, I'll try to do that for them. But just any ways of putting like products together where they can sell faster, just any kind of suggestive selling to make their life easier. A lot of times they'll message me, and now with social media, we'll get them digital images that they can put out on their professional. They don't have time to go out and take their own photos. And
Right.
so we'll send them that, and they can just put a caption on it, and they're ready to go. Earrings are great. We have a ton of earrings that we sell. This is a little dupe that I have on now for a real expensive line. Not everybody can pay $80 for a pair of earrings. And so, but these might cost $7. Let's put 20 on them because somebody's been paying 80. 20 is a great deal. Just try to point out what is a dupe and what the line is. And they can say, girls in this class are going to know what Queen of Sparkles is. We have a little dupe line of Queen of Sparkles in Michelle McDowell, and customers try to balk at, you know, a $70 sweatshirt. And I say, well, Queen of Sparkles are 200. So your
Mhm.
customers, the consumer knows what those things are, and we have to educate our customers to kind of see why something is, you know, added value with sequins or, you know,
Mhm.
embroidery. But you have to make it the value that it is, and then they have to pass that on to the end consumer.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's about educating them. It's about, you know, helping them. A lot of times, another way if something's not selling, I'm like, look, pull it off the floor for a little while and then put it back on there. A lot of people will put it on their own specifically made cards for their store, you
Mhm.
know, jewelry wise. But anytime you can kind of mix it up a little bit, you know, change out your display, for season. A lot of people now are doing more seasonal displays where they're pulling in jewelry, gift, t-shirts, apparel, and they're doing one big table in the front that has all of those in it. Well, if you've got a pair of brown earrings that haven't sold, throw
Mhm.
those on your fall display, and I guarantee somebody will buy them because that's more of a fall color, what we consider a fall color.
Right. Not going to sell in June and July when everybody's
Yeah.
wanting the bright colors, but that's so good. I love all of those examples of that value creation that you're doing for
Yeah.
your customer, which again only benefits them in the long
Yeah.
run, which in turn
Yeah.
will benefit you. And
Absolutely.
two, I think it goes back not only financially benefit you, but when you're willing to do that for your customer, it also shows that you are customer oriented, that you're trying to help them. And so
Yeah.
that's going to create that um not create, but further reinforce that loyalty,
Absolutely.
and set you apart from other reps who aren't willing to spend the time to do that. So that's
Exactly right.
really good.
And I've had people tell me before, you know, we never see our other, you know, you want your way, and you're not trying to like one up other people who do what you do, but
Mhm.
you know, I want to be the best at what I do. And I want to love my customers, and I want them to get my best. And so I want to be prepared. I want to be on time. I want to be, you know, I said prepared, but I want to have everything I need for them. Like the other day, I had a customer wanting to buy some wrapping paper from me, and she was like, I just really can't see what it looks like in this picture. And I had some samples in my car I ran out and got, and she was like, oh my gosh, it looks so much better. So that's when, you know, that sample comes in handy, and then she ended up buying the paper, you
Mhm.
know. But you do want to go the extra mile because they really notice that. And I've had some of the biggest stores in my territory just say, we don't ever see our rep.
Oh,
And that
wow.
makes sense to me because I'm like, there is no telling how much you buy from that person. So to
Mhm.
me, it's just like baseline common courtesy to go see them, you
Mhm.
know. But the added bonus is they appreciate you so much for doing it. And then that's when that relationship starts, and you can, you know, give them added value. This was something that happened not too long ago. I have a store. I wear this perfume called Baccarat Rouge, and one of our lines has done a dupe for it, and it is kind of expensive, but it's my one splurge. But I sell lotions, and one of the lotions did a dupe for it. And
Uh-huh.
so by using that, and one of my really good stores, she was like telling she and her mom own the store together, and she said, this is what Melanie always smells like when she comes in. And that mom was like, oh, she always smells so good. We need to get it. And so, you know, just doing what it is and being able to connect the dots really helps people. And then they bought a ton of it and it is kind of a trending fragrance in the fragrance world. And so, you know, just knowing the background of why things are the way they are and what it is, and making those comparisons really, really helps. Just trends, you know, in
Yeah.
general. We have to know what the trends are. I have people call me all the time, well, what that didn't go to market, like, well, what was selling well at market, you know? And
Mhm.
so that's where we also can give an added bonus in knowing what's out there, knowing what I have that's compatible, or just sending them to that, whatever it is, you know. Um,
Mhm.
I'm good friends with most of the reps, you know, in that sell to these customers in my territory. And that's so good too. You know, we don't have enemies here in what we do. We help each other, and And so if I don't have something, I'll say, well, you need to call so and so, and I think they can probably hook you up. So
That's so good.
yeah.
Um, and they wouldn't know how you smelled if you weren't coming in to see them, right?
An odd,
Another
that just came
benefit
to
of having,
mind.
yeah,
Yeah.
fragrance line is you're
Well, and I
actually,
sell so many fragrance lines, that, those kind of things really do help when something's trending.
yeah, for sure. That's good.
Mhm.
That's really good. Talk a little bit about your process for prospecting. Like, how involved
Yeah.
is OneCoast in that? How much of that falls on you? What does that look like for you?
Well, we have a great little channel for leads.
Mm-hmm.
It's online. It's in our ordering system. And every vendor, I have 12 vendors. Every vendor does it different. Um, some they like if a customer inquires to the company, they will the customer will just call me and we'll talk. Um, Most of them will send an email. This customer inquired about our line on the website. You need to follow up with them. Um, those are good. Something that's new to the gift world, and it's kind of a love-hate relationship, but it's called Fair, Faire, and it is a place, like an online marketplace where people can go and buy gift lines. Only one of our lines is on there, but it's kind of like I said, a marketplace. And so you can just see a lot of different lines, a lot of apparel. But the way I use Fair, and we complain about it because it's just kind of, we can't control what they're buying, like we were talking about earlier. When people in the same town, that's where you run into that. When people order outside of the regular channels, then you can have problems. And so that's the negative of it. But the positive is if it's a good fit for the company, that turns into a lead. And so
Mm-hmm.
you get the Fair product. The product that the company puts on Fair is not the new releases. So they're kind of putting the products on there that we've had for a while. And so that you can then go in and say, call that customer and say, oh my goodness, let me show you what's just about to come out, the brand new stuff, the new releases. And most of the time they want to see that, they don't even know that there's something newer than what they have. And so again, that's just an added bonus. And they, like I said, I'm going to say it over and over again, they want to see you face to face.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I'll send them catalogs and then we'll follow up and set up a time to meet. One way in years past, before we had so many channels of, online leads, I mean, to me, the best thing to do is walk in a store, be prepared, take in your computer, some samples, especially with whatever you're selling, your best sellers, have that in your bag and be prepared to take an order. A lot of times it's not a good, first of all, ask if this is a good time to talk. They may have something crazy going on, and you don't want to that's going to put them out if you just flop everything down when they've got 50 G customers in there. So, kind of read the room and just say, do you have time to chat right now, or we schedule an appointment for me to come back? And they may say no to both. But I try to leave something behind, which is a great way to, again, start developing that relationship. That way, if I leave a Sweet Grace sachet with my business card attached to it, that they're going to smell that sachet and they're going to think about me when they see my name. And so some of my best customers have come from just walking in the store and introducing myself and telling them what I have and going from there. Another way is, we're all on Instagram. Most of the people probably are. And so, you see stores that pop up on your feed, and I found, I'll Google or just search on Instagram, a town or a name, and I found several, and I'll just direct message them or call and say, I just saw your store. I think I might have some products that are a good fit for your store. And most of the time they'll say, yeah, come on. I'd love to see it. Most people at this point are familiar with the lines that I sell. And so I'll just say, I'm your territory manager for Mary Square. And I think it'd be a good fit in your store. And they'll, I'll send them a catalog or we'll set up a time to meet. I like for those first newer customers, I do like to go and see their store just to truly make sure it's a good fit. Mary
Mhm.
Square does a great job of kind of giving you their how many followers they have online on their online presence. And so that really helps. But we have shows too. Like I said, Atlanta show. We now go to several apparel shows. People come by the booth and leave their card if they're not going to write an order. So those are leads.
Mhm.
And they can order without me on some of those too at our shows. And then I try to follow up with them afterwards and go introduce myself and just make sure they can put a local face to the company.
Okay, I want to back up for just a second because I want to make sure that this is clear so that the way that OneCoast works is clear to the students.
Okay.
So when you're talking about you get leads from the individual vendors.
Yes.
So OneCoast is your umbrella company.
Yes.
Under the umbrella, there's lots of different things. So kind of explain that in the way that it's probably because you're saying, just so they're clear, you don't just get leads or do you get any leads that are directly from OneCoast?
Very rarely. And what they do is technically the way it's supposed to work is if a vendor gets a lead, they're supposed to send it to OneCoast and they're supposed to put it in our ordering system under hot leads. And so technically so they're all in one place. Now, most of the time, sometimes those leads aren't the best leads because it's just people fishing kind of for information. The best leads, like I said earlier, so yes, they do funnel them all into the one company, but I do get lots of emails from the individual vendors because that's just an easier way. When they get a phone call, somebody wanting to order in my territory, they just shoot me an email. Or if somebody if somebody goes to the Jane Marie website and fills out I'm interested in carrying this line and fills out the little thing, they just pop that information right on over to me because they know I'll see it right there in my email feed instead of having to go into my ordering system and kind of look. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Can I answer the question?
Well, I guess I really wanted it to be clear because it takes a good deal of organization on your part, which is a really important skill for someone to be successful in sales. Because you know, it's not just information coming from one place. They're coming at you from different vendors in different avenues, and so figuring out what works for you as far as managing those and how to follow up as quickly.
I try to follow up. I'm getting older, and so I forget. It's hard to go back. I try to mark things unread when I can. If I can't do it right then, a lot of times now from our phones, we can kind of respond. And a lot of times I know if I'm gonna be able to approve the lead, if I'm gonna, send them back an email. Somebody, we had a call. OneCoast does sharing calls too with some of our other divisions, but somebody said she has different signatures set up in her email that have, if it's somebody wanting to order product, it says, thank you for reaching out through the website. Here's some catalogs, but she just puts that in her signature. And I thought that was a really smart idea. But I have a little certain thing I say for customers who order on Fair, lead from Fair. I have a certain thing I say, and some companies, because they're sending me the lead so I can approve them and move forward, or say, that territory, that area is really saturated, can't approve right now. But you do want to respond and let them know one way or the other what's going on. But to me, the best way to do that is to do it right when you get it. It's front to mind, sitting at your computer if you can. If I see a lead too, a lot of times pop into my inbox, I won't open it until I know I'm going to be sitting in front of my computer and handle it. And really, a smart thing to do, and I may do this myself, is just have a little folder you can push those over into and then handle them all at the same time.
Yeah, that's good.
Because we've said this a lot too, in just our company, my friends, other reps, I don't want to be if I'm sitting at my computer all day, I'm not doing my job. You know, if I'm sitting there looking at, I'm not a reports person. A lot of people are, and I think they're great. But my job is to go out and sell to customers. And so if I'm sitting at my computer answering leads all day, then I'm not doing my job. And so one thing about sales and my job specifically, and Rob probably said the same thing in his call, is, you know, it's not 9 to 5. Now, some days my kids always go, "Do you go anywhere today?" And I'm like, "Well, I didn't. I answered 55,000 emails. I had 16 calls for people we needing stuff. And then, you know, 9 o'clock at night, somebody's texting, 'Where's my order?'" You know, and when you have over 300 customers, you know, it just never, you never turn it off. And like I said, I try to do it right when I get it so I don't forget.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have to manage a lot of different things outside of your main, the way that you're going to make the money. And so it is a lot of kind of juggling a lot of balls in the air. And look, I dropped a ball probably 2 yesterday that I got, you know, found out that I had forgotten to do something I was supposed to do. And customers are understanding. They get it. You know, they're doing the same thing on their end. But you do, there are ways now with the technology we have to manage those in a really smart way where you can get it all done.
That's really good. Just having a system and knowing,
Yeah.
I think is.
I have a friend who, one way she does her, when she gets like issues, one of the companies, we have to send them a zip code to when there's like a damage. And we handle damages too. Customers call me all the time. They want to report damages. But they have to have a zip code, and she keeps their zip code in their phone number. So they text her, she's got their zip code in the by their name, and so that's how she has it. Little tips, shortcuts.
That's good. That's really good.
Mhm.
Love that. Let's see. I think we've covered all of that. Oh, talk about you kind of hit on this, but just so it's all in one spot. But talk about what your typical day looks like. What because you just mentioned if you're sitting in front of your computer, that is not a good day.
So most days, you know, as Laura mentioned earlier, we have 3 kids, so we kind of shoot them out the door, and I try to go. I mean, I try to go somewhere every single day because I want to be in front of my customers. I try to have one set appointment every day. So if I'm going to Tupelo, say, and then I know as I'm driving home, I can kind of think, well, do I need to stop in West Point? Do I need to call somebody in West Point to check on them? You know, is there somewhere else I can pop in? Like I was in Tupelo earlier this week, popped in to another store just to do an inventory while I was there. You know, they're really wanting, my company is wanting us to see 2 customers a day. And so I try to have a set appointment somewhere. And then I will try to pop in somewhere else, call somebody on my way and say, look, I just want to drop off a catalog, or I want to run in and see you real quick. Certain lines that I sell, we do a lot of quick reorders. And so those little FaceTimes are great too. Just that face-to-face, popping in. They're busy. They don't want to sit with me for 3 hours, you know, and that's something else I really try to focus on too is, you know, I think when I first started, we just flipped through every page and talked about everything in the catalog. Now I'm really conscious of their time and mine, you know, and so we talk about, when I first get there, we talk about the lines. What are we looking at today? You know, what's new? What do we need to reorder? And so I try to stay, certain people, I will be in there 2 hours, but I try to really keep it fast paced. So they're only looking at the things that they need or want, and we're not getting bogged down in just a lot of conversation about arbitrary issues. I try not to talk about price a lot. People go, you know, if they ask me how much something is, I'm going to tell them, but I try not to get real bogged down on that. I sold a bunch of $35 sweatshirts that are shipping now, and people are probably going to be calling me like they didn't know they were $35. But that starts a process of just getting hung up on things that I'm not saying I'm not being forthcoming with the info, but if they're not asking, I'm not telling. I guess that's the best way to put it. Because that just slows down the sale, you know, especially places like Market where you're scanning items and you're going. you know, anything you can do to keep the buyer focused on you in that room where you are and just keep it going. I find that when they leave to get up to go do something out front, it messes up our system when they have a bunch of people in there with them asking questions. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? That slows down the system. You know, if you can kind of get them in a groove, you can work through a lot. You can get through a lot of ground quickly. And I think when you set the precedent like that, they look forward to you coming, know you're going to get a lot done in a short amount of time. Some people love to spend all day. You know, you just kind of have to gauge. Most people don't. They want you to come, show them what they need, and move quickly. I have taken a lot of times I'll take a proposed order. I have some books that I sell from that are this thick, you know, and I'll take a proposed order and say, I have gone through this book and I have found exactly the things that I think will work for your store. 9 times out of 10, they're like, we'll just do that, because they don't want to look through that whole book, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I'll say, look, this book is your homework. If somebody does want to look through, and some people want to see every single item, I'll hand them the catalog and I'll say, this is your homework. If I don't hear back from you within 3 days, I'm going to call you. You know, I'm going to follow up. I'm going to follow up.
Yeah. You could get really bogged down going through a 300-page catalog. And bogged down and not productive.
Right. So I just try to make the most of their time, so it's most beneficial for me as well, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think it's not persistent. And I will, you know, that's another thing. If somebody doesn't call me back, I'll keep calling. You know, if it's something that I know they need me or want me, and they know that about me at this point, you know, they're like, well, just, you know, if I don't answer, just keep calling. But I think you have to be persistent, and you cannot you know, you have to have a little bit of thick skin too to handle, you know, lots of personalities. But, and then, you know, that's the appointment side of my day. And then it's, you know, like I mentioned earlier, you're constantly answering phone calls. You're scheduling appointments. I schedule all of my own appointments for every day. So you're on and now, thankfully, most of my people I can text and say, you want to meet Monday. But you're constantly getting texts that something's damaged. You know, you're answering emails from vendors, you're having conference calls with vendors, that's what I've been doing this morning, is had some new releases from certain vendors. So, you know, and we do that one day a month. We kind of do all of our Zooms and things where vendors introduce new products and things like that. But I do make my own schedule. Like I said, I just try to get out and go somewhere every day. And on the way to, in between times, is when I try to do some of those. If I can send an email from my phone, I do. And I keep some of those just responses to certain topics in my notes. And so I can just copy and paste that into the email and send it.
That's good. That's good. Keeping them in a draft so it saves you time. Not having to read.
But just is a lot of moving parts, and it's a lot. Every day is different, you know. But I do go. I think the first place I go is Dyersburg, Tennessee. It's about 4 hours up there, and but when I go there, I do have a little bit overnight, so I'll spend the night up there and kind of work my way home. But like I said, every day is different, and you just kind of go where you know you're going, and then I work my way home. I just try to make the most of my time. And try to be, you know, work-life balance is important. You know, I try to make sure that, because the benefit of me is hard when you have to set your own schedule, because you don't sell anything, you're not making any money. But the good part is I can be around for my kids' things. I can, you know, if I need to be doing something else besides work, I can work that into my schedule myself.
Right. So you just mentioned the flexibility and with your schedule being a perk. What are some of the other perks? I know you've gotten to do some really fun trips, not just maybe the other like reward trips and other things. So talk about some of the perks and the benefits.
Well, first of all, I just love my job. I sell some really fun products that are really kind of hot in the industry right now. So just having that, Mary Flynn told me later, she was like, I love your job. And I was like, I do. But anyway, just, having that, just people being excited about what I'm selling is a perk, really, first and foremost. But like I mentioned about Bridgewater, I've gotten to go to Haiti with them several years ago. They want to reward any sales company, they want to reward their top salespeople. And so I've gotten to go to Hawaii a couple of times. Um, I've won cash, which is great.
Yeah.
Uh, just they fly us to Atlanta twice a year for market, and then we get to go there too for some other type meetings. I've gotten to go to a Nashville apparel mart, which is fun just to be around the industry and see trends. But a lot of fun perks. They send us tons of samples, so I get to wear fun jewelry and have a lot of great candles. But I try to wear. That's another thing. If you're selling something like what I sell, you need to wear the product. I wear the earrings. I try to wear the apparel. And they send us those for free, which is a perk. But that, to me, just a perk too in the business sense is that when your customers see you obviously believing in the products because you're having them on your body, I mean, that goes a long way, when they see you and you're like, oh my gosh, this is Michelle McDowell, and then they buy it. So
Right.
that's really good. And I think that's just a perk just on the business end, but there's a lot of fun perks too. Just my biggest thing is the flexibility. That is such a awesome perk, being able to not be chained to a 9 to 5, just kind of being able to set my own day. And I mean, lots of times a year though, I work really, really hard, especially at market. Those are 12-hour days. It's so fun, but it is just grueling work.
Mhm.
And then, certain times of year, just being on the road, traveling up to Tennessee and being there for a long time, it is fun, but it will take a toll. But most days are just flexible and good.
Yeah, that's awesome. The flexibility, definitely,
Mhm.
definitely a perk. Okay, so let's wrap up with maybe what are your two, I don't know, two or three, however many you want to give, best tips, best pieces of advice for either launching or having amazing success. What are your tips for those headed into sales?
I'm going to say number one is relationships. Those you're not going to have. I mean, you might have some of those as you start out, but as you continue to grow you know, in your role, just
Mhm.
building a relationships with your customers or your clients or your whatever you're selling, your doctors, or building the relationships to me is first and foremost. Um, not wasting their time, being
Mhm.
on time, being prepared, um, making sure that all your ducks in a row. So I think early in my career, sometimes I would like forget. And I mean, no day is ever, sometimes you forget something, but
Mhm.
just, relationships is key, being prepared is key, and then just going
Mhm.
every day, having an appointment every day. And that sets you up, just for success, just because you're knowing what you're doing, you know,
Mhm.
when you're not going somewhere every day, then that might turn into 2 days. And then
Mhm.
you're kind of in a rut. And then, but I just think even if you don't have an appointment, run over to the next town over and see what they're doing. I don't like to do a lot of that just because I don't like to drive somewhere with gas the way it is and then not get a sale. But, if you're really desperate, now you can, fill people out or call, but just get yourself in front of somebody's face, even if it's in your town, or go
Mhm.
help somebody make a display. I do that a lot in the holidays. When stores are really busy, I'll pop in and take them some goodies and help them
Mhm.
rework a jewelry display or something.
Mhm.
But just building those relationships and adding the fourth thing I would probably say is just all that will add value to you and to them.
Mhm.
But you
Mhm.
make yourself a, advisor really to
Mhm.
them, and they really respect your opinion and they come to you for product and ideas.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. Melanie, this has been so good. So many good. I've taken, I don't know, a bunch of pages of notes. So this has been really good and super helpful as
Well, I
always.
hope lots of people go into sales and enjoy
Not your,
it.
not your job though.
No, can't have my job. My roommate asked me a few years ago, she's about 10 years older than me, and she said, "Do you think you'll be doing this in 10 years?" I was like, "Well, I hope so. I don't know what else I would be doing."
I
But there's
know.
lots of jobs in this industry, different ways you get paid, different products, different anything you look at on a shelf anywhere, somebody is selling that. So
Mm-hmm.
lots of
Yes.
lots of jobs.
Well, I really appreciate your time and your transparency and just all of the good things that you have shared today.
Well, I was glad to help. And y'all just have a great semester. Love Mississippi State and
Go dogs.
go Dogs.